So by the time I was a senior in high school, I'd been in school for 13 years and I was 19 years old going on 20. I had failed a grade in Okinawa in the ninth grade because I had skipped out pretty much every day and gone to the beach. I was at a point where I did not care about school. I didn't care about anything to do with school. I had been to 12 different schools where I was the new kid, 12 different times where I had 12 different new sets of courses and 12 sets of books and 12 sets of classes. I had done that 12 times and I was just sick of it. I couldn't keep up any longer. I didn't want to keep up. I had just thrown up my hand and said, screw it. So I skipped out pretty much every day. And in my senior year, I made it to March of '68 when I quit and went and took the GED test. And I say quit, but I believe I was forced out. And here's the way they did it back then. I was a pretty surly and sarcastic and student by the end there. When I wasn't asleep in the back row of every single class, I was cutting down the teacher and making snide remarks. I would say, shit, man, I can't imagine putting up with me. But I'd never had anyone in any school, any kind of counselor or any teacher take me aside and work with me and tell me that I had something. You hear all these stories about the teacher that helped out some kid. I never had anything like that ever, or not once, not even close to that. I had teachers I liked, but everyone liked them. Mr. Lash at Kubasaki High School in Okinawa. Mr. Lash was one cool dude, but he never took me aside and said, hey, buckle down here, buddy, or anything. No one ever said anything to me, so I thought no one gave a crap about me. And guess what? I was at a point where I didn't give a crap. And so in my shop class, this where it finally came to a head. The guy was a buffoon, I thought, teacher. I don't know if he was or not in retrospect, but I thought he was. And I was always cutting him down and putting him down and making the class laugh at him. And so he had us all make tables, a little coffee table, and I made my table, and mine was as good as better than half of them in there. And he gave me an F on it. And I said, you can't do that. And he goes, if you don't like it, you go to the principal. And I said, well, I'm going to the principal. So we went to me and him went to the principal, sat down in the principal's office, whose office I'd been in many, many times, and who pretty much hated my guts. And I told him what happened, and he told him his side. And obviously it was just an attempt to get back at me. And the vice principal looked at me straight in the eye and he said, if you don't like it, why don't you quit? And I said, you know what? I quit. Fuck you, and got up and walked out. That's how I left high school. So I believe that was sort of kicked out. They did it a little nicer back then. But the other side of that is I don't blame them. I do not blame them. I had no business in high school. I went and took my GED test the same day or same week and enrolled in college, taking drafting classes because I wanted to be an architect someday. So kicked out of high school? Yep, I've been kicked out. I've been suspended more times than I could count. I spent more than half my life in detention, which is after school. But I loved it. I loved it. That's where I came alive, is in detention. Anyhow, that's my story.